Hey, it's Kevin Toffel with GigaHome, and today I'm looking at the Sprint EVO 3D built by HTC. Got this review unit yesterday. I have it for a couple weeks. I'll put it through the paces, but I want to give you a quick tour of the hardware and talk about the phone real fast. On the box, you've got some Sprint branding, but not much else other than their colors, and that's because it's hard to see, but it says EVO 3D there, and it's kind of raised to give you that 3D effect. You know, I would have liked to see a picture of the phone there, but that's just me. Instead of showing a picture of the phone, why don't I open the box and actually show you the phone. There it is right there. We'll power that up. You can see it's got the HTC Sense 3.0 interface, very much like, in fact exactly like, that on the HTC Sensation 4G I reviewed with T-Mobile last week. The phone itself, we'll take a closer look at the hardware. The biggest claim to fame and differentiation factor here is the dual 5-megapixel cameras on the back and a stereoscopic screen, so that way you can actually watch 3D videos or 3D pictures, look at the pictures, without any glasses on this screen, just like Nintendo's GS, the 3DS. So we'll take a closer look at that in a minute. What else do we have in the box? We've got a getting started pack, which I got started without it, never even opened it. I'm sure there's lots of good stuff in there. We've got an HTC power brick, just plugs into the wall, and then on the other side you have a USB port, and of course HTC includes the USB cable, and it's micro USB at the other end, so it's a standard cable you can use for multiple purposes or use a different cable, your choice. So we put all that back in the box, and we will take a closer look at the HTC EVO 3D on Sprint. Okay, when looking at the HTC EVO 3D for Sprint, a couple things come to mind. It's very similar to that HTC Sensation 4G I just mentioned. Very few specifications are different. So let me give a hardware tour first, and then we'll talk about the actual specifications of the device. Obviously, you've got this really nice 4.3-inch Super LCD display. It's 960 by 540 or QHD resolution, just like the Sensation. Viewing angles are pretty good. Again, it's hard to tell in here with the glare, but I've had no problems viewing it from different angles. We have the touch capacitive buttons on the bottom. At the top, we have a front-facing camera. Right above the Sprint logo there, you can see it. There's also an LCD notification light right inside the speaker grill here. And let me turn that off for a second and take you around the rest of the hardware. You've got a 3.5mm headphone jack and the power awake button at the top. On the left-hand side, nothing more than the micro USB port. Right-hand side has the volume up and down rocker, and it has a unique button here that is the camera shutter release, and a switch here that, if I flip this around, you can see it is for changing your camera mode from 2D photos to 3D photos. On the bottom, nothing here other than the place to pull off the cover, which we'll do in a minute. And of course on the back you've got the dual 5-megapixel cameras, 2 flashes, this is autofocus. You can take 5-megapixel stills, you can take 720p video in either 2D or 3D. No 1080p on this device as of right now. Let me actually crack this open because we'll talk about the memory. This phone comes with 4 gigabytes of internal memory, but I suspect that Sense is using up quite a bit, because just like on the HTC Sensation, which uses Sense 3.0, only 1 gigabyte of RAM is user accessible, or 1 gigabyte of storage, I'm sorry. The device does have 1 gig of RAM as well. So you'll probably make good use of the 8 gigabyte included SD card, although you can put in your own up to 32 gigabytes. You have a 1730 milliamp battery, which should be good because this is a WiMAX device as well, and we gotta watch the battery life when using WiMAX and the 3G radio. So, one thing I don't like already, the battery is flush with this micro SD card, so you cannot hot swap that card while the phone is on. I think that's a little bit of a design flaw there. Let's put the cover back on. Build quality seems pretty good. The cover itself is plastic. The phone itself is pretty solid feeling other than that plastic. It's got a nice grippy kind of finish on the back, which I like. So, size-wise, it's very similar to the Sensation 4G. A little bit thicker, probably because of the dual camera sensors would be my guess, but about the same. About the same. So let's take a quick look here. Again, we've got Sense 3.0, which has impressed me so far. The device is pretty responsive. It uses a 1.2 Qualcomm Snapdragon dual-core processor, just like the Sensation. I already find it to be a little faster, though, than the Sensation, and I think it's because it has a little bit of extra RAM memory there. So, in fact, I can go into the quick settings and we can look at the total memory, and that is far more free than I usually see on the Sensation. So, that is my guess as to why it's a little bit snappier. So, got your 3D-like interface, carousel. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. There's our carousel, Sense 3.0. And I can't, unfortunately, show you the 3D effect of the camera. I can tell you how it works. Unfortunately, just can't show you. Oops, I'm hitting the wrong buttons because I got a camera in my way here. Hang on one second. We'll get to the gallery. Switch it this way. These are all 3D photos and videos that come included on the device. You can see they all have a little 3D to indicate as such. There's also all photos, 2D photos. I've taken my own video in 3D. And you don't need glasses for this. Unfortunately, again, you won't be able to see the stereoscopic effect, but if I move this left and right, you can see some movement in the rocks, especially in the foreground. And that's because it's the two images here, and the screen itself will separate those for your left eye and your right eye and give it a 3D effect. And I have to say, I've been impressed by the 3D effect. No glasses needed. It's got some really nice depth. I don't feel like it's losing any color. It's actually quite nice. You can kind of get a feel for it, but you can't see it, unfortunately. I wish I could show you. You'd have to all come over, and there's just not enough room in the house, unfortunately. So, but taking 3D videos, I've done that already. They look very nice. You can shoot them up to YouTube and view them there. You can also output these to a 3D television. I do not have one, so I cannot test that, but that would work as well. So you can share all that content. You can share the web connection with up to 8 devices. Again, this has WiMAX as well as 3G for Sprint. Overall, it's only been a day, but I find it to be a nice device, a little bit heavy. It's close to 6 ounces in terms of weight, but it does kind of have a little bit of a brickish feel because it's kind of brickish. I don't know how else to say it, as opposed to the Sensation, which is more rounded on the bottom. Let's see if I can get a better view of that. You can get a feel for these two devices and see what I mean when I say brickish. So, in any case, that is a very quick look at the HTC EVO 3D on Sprint. I'll be putting it through the paces over the next 1 to 2 weeks before I send it back, and I'll have more for you in a full review.